Good morning to you and welcome to your propaganda-free, factual and intellectually stimulating news analysis show on Saturday morning. This is NewDay Saturday Edition. Once again, welcome. My name is Abna Tebi. We're coming to you live from the studios of TV3 here in Accra. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, live on Connect 97.1 FM in Takoradi, and we're streaming live on the internet at 3news.com. We're also live on our Facebook page, TV3 News, and on GhanaWeb.com. We'll be with you till just about 10 minutes to the hour of 10, where we draw conversations to an end, but by which time we'd have done some serious analysis of issues lined up for today's discussions. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the Speaker and the fact that he ruled finally on the Honorable Joe Garte Committee report's finding of contempt of Parliament against the Honorable Mahama Ayariga. He pardons him, but admonishes him to, quote, go and sin no more. Does this bring closure to this matter of bribery against Parliament, or the bribery allegations against Parliament? The panel will be weighing in on this all-important subject. Definitely, we have our spotlight still shining on the Galamsey challenges. Now we are looking at the many initiatives that have been launched, coming on the heels of the heightened attention on this all-important subject of Galamsey and the fact that it's causing such a great havoc to our environment, water bodies being polluted, farmlands being degraded, amongst many other things. And then, of course, we'll be looking at the Delta Force and the fact that they're on the rampage now. So it started with the seizures of toll booths, it went on to public toilets, then it moved into the show of disapproval of appointees by political authority, where appointees of the president were forcefully removed from their offices. The recent example of the Ashanti Regional Security Coordinator in perspective. Now, the impunity has entered the courtroom to undermine the very rule of law that we claim to uphold as the tenet of our democracy. That a group of thugs or rogues can dare to enter a court of competent jurisdiction to disrupt proceedings and in the process facilitate the escape of 13 persons standing trial for alleged criminal conduct. I mean, that is unheard of. Now, the 13 are reported to have turned themselves in subsequently, but it changes nothing. Things really have come to a head. The monsters that were created, nurtured, and pampered for electioneering gains are on the rampage now, causing mayhem beyond imagination. The question is, how long will we tolerate and countenance this madness and absurdity? The panel, as usual, will be weighing in on this. And then we'll also take a look at the NDC and talk about the NDC going on an early Congress. The question is, what is bringing this up? And what is this early Congress likely to do to the party or for the party? So these are the issues we've lined up for discussion this morning. Now I'll quickly introduce the panelists for today's discussions. From my far left, we have Mr. Emmanuel Asigri. He is the CEO of the National Youth Authority and a member of the NPP communications team. Next, we have the Honorable Albert Adongo. He's the NDC MP, Honorable Isaac Adongo, NDC MP for Bolga constituency. Next to him is Mr. Edgar Redu. He's an insurance person and also a political analyst. Last but not least, we have Dr. Samuel Batchison Ofe. He is the Consultant Director of Drolo Center for Strategic Leadership at UPSA. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
It's good to have you here. We will kickstart our conversations. We'll definitely start off with what happened yesterday in Parliament, where the Speaker finally ruled on the Honorable Joe Garte Committee report that found the Honorable Mahama Ayariga to be in contempt of Parliament. Indeed, it was long in coming, but eventually it was delivered. Let me start with you, Mr. Edgar Redu. Your thoughts on, I mean, we all know how we got to this point, and now the report that the Speaker has finally ruled. Your thoughts on the Speaker's ruling. Go and sin no more, he said. I'm sure somewhere in between we'll play back exactly what happened in Parliament. But
well, good morning to our viewers and the listeners, and of course my colleague panelists here. In relation to this particular issue, right from day one, I said that the position of the Speaker in setting up a committee was not the right thing to do, because quoting from that particular Order 191, matters relating to public interest. These are issues like what is happening now today, what we are talking about, the Galamsey issues. We are talking about issues relating to the, I think even the Speaker says that they should go into that one, the, was it Kintampo waterfalls issues. These are things that, yes, engages public interest. But when matters that borders on criminality comes up, it will not find its space under that Order 191. This is a pure matter that the securities agencies, or for that matter, the police CID, should have come into it. Be as it may, well, this is where we have found ourselves. And at the end of the day, the long story has gotten to the level that, in effect, is like Ayariga lied. Now, for a state like Ghana, as we are trying to build our image, we are talking about, I remember someone said that a question was asked in Kenya, that what is democracy? And then the person said, democracy is Ghana. Yes, because of how our elections have been going on peacefully without, how do they call those things in Kenya? It was the power sharing agreements and misunderstandings. And they see that, so we are, you know, catch a certain image for ourselves, right? And to that extent, that people should follow and then emulate us, as we're talking about the beacon of Africa and all that. Now, if you have no less an institution like Parliament being slapped with such an allegation,
not just once, actually,
yes,
several times
you see,
before
it
that.
goes to dent the image of the state, Ghana itself, right? It's not a good thing. And such issues must not be swept under the carpet and say that, okay, apologize and then go and sin no more. What, you know, at the end of the day, the citizenry itself, what kind of confidence, what kind of respect do we have for that institution? We shouldn't just, somebody mentions, oh, don't mind those people. I mean, you know, these are the things that now is on the lips of people. And not forgetting the fact that there are personalities involved. I mean, people have worked all their lives to earn their images and their positions, their reputations and what have you. And then the next thing is that you attach such, I mean, it's not the best. A minister coming into office is alleged to have gone to pave his way so that he gets it. Not forgetting the fact that even the statement that came up when this whole thing started was that this time round, we will not take money from anybody. So it gives a certain picture that in the past, that is what Parliament has been doing. They've been taking monies from nominees to pass them. All these things, you don't come and say, okay, let's...
So let me ask, so what were you expecting to have happened? What would you have loved to see?
In real sense, he should have actually been, you know, expelled out of the chamber. He should have been expelled. I mean, that's, you know, these are things that you do and people begin to give recognition and respect. Because you see, what you are saying is that an honorable member has come to lie about colleagues in Parliament. And you saw the whole nation, how the whole nation rose up to this matter. So it was not something that people just ignored as one of those passing things.
Very well. Let's take a story on this issue and then we'll come back to the rest of the panels to have their takes on this issue as well. Please, let's have that.
Who had written an unqualified apology to the House to please read same at this juncture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to paragraph 141 of the report of your committee, I render an unqualified apology to this August Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me another opportunity.
Honorable Ayariga, I'll ask you to read your own letter dated 3rd April 2017. If you have not got a copy, I'll let the table office give same to you to read out.
Mr. Speaker, I recall that there were a series of communications, and so I am not clear which letter.
Honorable Ayariga, that is why I'm about to give it to you. Order.
I didn't have a copy, that was why. But let me read it so that honorable members who are listening will see if there's a difference between what I said and what is written. So it says, apology pursuant to the recommendations of the Special Ad Hoc Committee of Parliament. And it says, pursuant to paragraph 141 of the report of the Special Committee to investigate the bribery allegation and the decision of this Honorable House adopting the report, I hereby render an unqualified apology to this Honorable House of Parliament. Thank you.
Subpart 2 of our standing orders, headed Contempt of Parliament or Breach of Privileges, captures this as well. Any act or omission which affronts the dignity of Parliament or which tends either directly or indirectly to bring the name of Parliament into dispute is contempt. In all the circumstances of this case, I have come to the conclusion that the Honorable Ayariga should be shown the quality of mercy on this occasion. May he go and sin no more. He is warned never to peddle such expensive rumors anymore in his affairs in this House. I must extend a warning to some 4 or 5 honorable members who deem it proper to make untoward noise, apparently in support of Honorable Ayariga, regarding the conduct for which the Honorable Ayariga has now apologized. I trust the Honorable First Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Muntaka, and the entire House will forgive and put this matter to rest. Thank you, honorable members.
Well, so that was what happened in Parliament yesterday. We'll move on quickly. Honorable Adongo, you are a member of the August House. Tell me, do you find the outcome of this whole process satisfactory?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning to my colleague panelists and to your cherished viewers. Yes, if you look at the processes that were instituted to do the investigation, it came to some conclusions. We have always said, and lawyers will tell you, that truth without evidence is untruth. And therefore, you could be speaking the truth, but when you don't have evidence, it appears as if you're lying. So that is why I would not go for the word lying when it comes to this issue with Ayariga. What it simply means is that
he couldn't substantiate what he said.
it.
Yes.
And therefore, it still becomes very difficult for us to say that this issue has received finality. Because if I'm unable to, at a point of engagement with you, pick the kind of evidence that meets the standard. Probably because at a point in time, I did not feel that the need would arise for me to adduce the evidence that is required. And therefore, I probably might have not gathered evidence at all. And therefore, the fact that I have spoken the truth or otherwise, but cannot substantiate it, legally may make it very difficult for you to be able to prove yourself. And so yes, there may be a difficulty in improving yourself, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm not on an appointment committee. I still leave a shroud of doubt as to what really happened. And I do believe that what really happened is left between the two parties that are contesting this matter. That is my personal view.
Right.
The other issue is that don't forget that Honorable Ayariga raised certain legal issues to do with the outcome of the report. And if you read the report carefully, you'll find that the committee came to the conclusion that there was no
accused person that came before them. In fact, they refer to all the people who came before them as witnesses, who basically were helping to unearth the truth. So how do I then suddenly become an accused? And for which reason a verdict had to be passed on me? So that creates a contradiction, and that creates a difficulty. And that is why you would notice that Honorable Ayaga was
a contradiction that is coming perhaps after the fact, because Parliament approved this report.
It's a report we are dealing with.
Right.
And that report tells me that all the people that came before them, there wasn't anybody who was an accused, there wasn't a defendant, in fact, there wasn't a plaintiff. That is what the report says. All the people who came were witnesses. So I cannot see how you arrive at a conclusion that suggests that there was an accused who you needed to then find whether that accused had to be given certain sanctions. That is a difficulty.
But clearly
for
the source of this allegation is identifiable.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
But you are saying you were not interviewing them as accused persons. You were not interviewing anybody as a defendant, and you were not interviewing anybody that came before you as a plaintiff. So it would suggest that you didn't have the final conclusion to arrive at a verdict. You could only say that these are the facts that I have gathered. And on the strength of those facts, what do we glean out of it? Okay.
Very well.
So that would have been, that's
hold on to your thoughts.
Live
on TV3 in Accra, we're also live on 3FM 92.7 and live on Connect 97.1 FM in Takoradi. We're also streaming live on the internet at 3news.com. We're also streaming live on our Facebook page, TV3 News, and also we're on GhanaWeb.com. Now, just before the break, we're looking at the Parliament bribery issue and the final report that was presented, and of course the Speaker's ruling on it yesterday. The Honourable Isaac Adongo was making his submission, so we'll continue, Honourable. But I think you raised an issue about procedural, perhaps irregularities, which border on the terms of reference of the committee, whether or not they stayed within their mandate. So carry on, please.
Yeah, so Ayaga had raised that issue. The other issue he raised was that they had considered using criminal procedure as part of the methodology in arriving at the conclusion. And Ayaga was of the view that in criminal proceedings, you need to give room for cross-examination. And lawyers will tell you that another important source of evidence, without the kind of evidence we're looking for, is also the cross-examination. Cross-examination can yield a lot of evidence.
Of course, sure.
And so if you don't have the opportunity to cross-examine in order to be able to arrive at another level of evidence that could still substantiate your claim, then it will sound as if you have not been given a proper hearing. So he raised those issues. But at the end of the day, what are we looking at? The fact that you've not been able to bring the evidence, and because of that, there's still doubt in the minds of the people. You have to understand that.
But which kind of doubt? Because we are looking at the committee's report as being final, having had the approval of Parliament and all. So looking at the perception people still have about Parliament.
That's the doubt that people still have.
Right.
And you have people's, what we call reputations at stake. So at the end of the day, it is about whether by the conclusions that we have arrived at, whether or not that also deals with the reputations of the others. And
speaking of reputation, if I may bring this in, I'm not sure, but I think I heard that Honourable Osei-Wusu is not allowed to, pursue this matter in court.
Yes, because he needs the permission of the Speaker.
But then he denied him that.
He denied that. But I'm saying
which is also raising issues.
At the end of the day, the chairman of the committee, the appointment committee, is a very senior person, and he's somebody also with a very high standing in society. So when there's doubt about his conduct, then you are not being fair if you cannot clear it. You are dealing with Honorable Mutaka. He also has his reputations. So when there are doubts and you cannot clear it, then there's a challenge. So on the balance of these two, what is the appropriate course of action to take? And in my view, yesterday's process was to say that you have not been able to substantiate your claim. People's reputations must be repaired. And therefore, we come to the conclusion that because you have not been able to properly substantiate, you are at fault. And then you apologize.
Right.
But I'm saying that at the end of the day, as to whether Parliament was in the right place to investigate this matter, or this matter should have been investigated outside of Parliament. It is quite clear. And yesterday, the Speaker made...
You said it is quite clear. If it could be explicit for me. What exactly do you mean? You think...
He made it very, very clear that it was within the powers of Parliament to investigate itself. And in fact, anything that starts from Parliament ends in Parliament. If you go to the other arm of government, you can't get justice for it. Because at the end of the day, justice can be served with the processes and the standing orders of Parliament. And we believe, and the Speaker believes...
But here we are now questioning the outcome of this committee's work.
You think that cases that are decided in court, we don't discuss them?
But there are various levels you can proceed to appeal. What is the option here for that?
You can go out to the Supreme Court, but you still don't feel that you haven't served justice.
But then there's an issue of finality brought to matters.
Finality because you are compelled to accept it. What else is your option? If you disagree with the Supreme Court, you've gone for a review, and you still haven't got what you want. You disagree, but that is the end of the story.
But you respect it, yes.
Exactly. So it doesn't mean that for you, why is it that people are jailed for 10, 20 years before the evidence comes out and they are cleared? So until the evidence is brought up, you still are dissatisfied with the process. So it doesn't mean that by going to court, you would have a conclusion that is acceptable to all Ghanaians. You will still have people who will still not accept that verdict. And so I believe that the question as to whether charge, in fact, these bodies are not banned from taking action. But in their own view, and in looking at the remit of Parliament, they know that they will get nowhere with it. And that is the reason they will not even pursue it. And
but so, you remember, Shraj, at the time, I think in February when this committee was set up, the commissioner had actually said that, well, Parliament is the master of its own procedures and so was going to work on it. But if after the whole process, I mean, the outcome of the process is not satisfactory, then perhaps they could launch that process to look into it on their own.
Satisfactory by whose standards? By whose standards?
I believe that question should be put to the commissioner because he said that.
Shraj knows standards better than Parliament? I mean, you see, we shouldn't allow some state institutions to suddenly behave as if they have the authority to usurp others' powers. Shraj will determine what is appropriate standard for Parliament. Please, I mean, let's be realistic with these things. At the end of the day, Parliament is the master of its own rules. We have sat on this matter, the Speaker has ruled, the matter is over. I don't think that it lies within anybody's jurisdiction to be questioning whether or not this meets a certain standard and for which reason they would bring their standard that they believe is an appropriate standard to bear on Parliament's own work. I don't think it will get
very well. This process has come to an end, but like you're saying, there's still that perception out there which we need to deal with. But the question is, how do we deal with that? You're a parliamentarian. Yes. Are you concerned? Definitely you are concerned about that perception out there.
Yes, I am
Quickly
concerned.
Tell us, how do you think we can best deal with that?
I am concerned that as an institution, Parliament is the only institution among the three arms of government that can ensure that the other two arms of government function appropriately. Now, at the end of the day, if Parliament loses its credibility, democracy is finished. And that is the reason that we are all worried that Parliament has been brought under attack by this matter. And therefore, it was very important that as part of the process, we come to a conclusion that secures personal reputations, that identifies really what the issues are. And I'm sure if Honorable Mahama Yarga had been able to adduce evidence and put it on the table, the conversation would have been different. And so at the end of the day, you are weighing the balance of the evidence that you don't have against the personal reputations that have been injured. And therefore, you needed to heal all these in order to ensure that Parliament stays united and move forward, but also that public interest in this matter is served. And that is the most important part of it.
Am I hearing you say there was a compromise of sorts then?
No, I'm saying public interest must be served, but you don't serve public interest because public is clamoring for a certain direction. Even if that direction cannot be substantiated, we must go that path because that's what the public wants.
Very well. Doc, your views on this. Do you think Parliament has come out of this whole process stronger or it's been beaten up?
Thank you, Abra. I think that he said something. Parliament is the master of its own processes. And it deals with itself. The whole thing started from Parliament. So it must end in Parliament. And I think that we mustn't forget that perception in public administration is as real as the obvious. As the obvious. So, all these, I mean, why are we sitting here? We are sitting here because we want to be sure that what transpired has had some finality to it. And so we are here and we are talking. And I think that yesterday, listening to the Right Honorable Speaker, he ended on mercy granted to Honorable Ayariga. The question is, on what basis was the mercy granted? Is it on the issue of contempt? If it is contempt, and it is agreed that Honorable Ayariga, how will you say, you the lawyer,
was found to be in contempt of Parliament.
Yes, was found to be in contempt of Parliament. So then, on what basis did he come to that mercy? You know, so I think that this thing will never end today. It will linger on. People will debate it in the trotro. They will debate it in their rooms. They will debate it everywhere, even in the lecture halls. And I think that, for me, I haven't seen the finality of this. So, and in the past, a lot was said about Parliament. So on this particular, I mean, when this issue came up, everybody was interested, wanted to know the outcome. For me, the outcome is not gelling at all.
You think it's murkier than we started, the whole process?
Murkier than we started.
Very well. Let me move on to Emmanuel here, and let's have this. Again, do you think Parliament has come out stronger or otherwise?
Well, let me say good morning to my co-panelists. Having said that, you remember last week when I found myself here, I said I was speaking for the majority who, you know, don't really understand these issues of procedure and the legal issues that comes in. I still see myself in that regard. And having said so, before I come to the question you've put before me, listening to the various speakers on this matter, I mean, the part that I think I want to just make a few comments on is to do with my brother Honorable Adongo's submission, where if you listen to him from the beginning of his statement, he did indicate that there's been some kind of a challenge with regards to this whole thing to do with Ayariga, and then the processes that, you know, went into this whole matter. You know, having created an opportunity for him to be able to put out his case properly, to establish whether, you know, the issue he put out there was with basis or not. As he made that statement, he ended up with a very profound one, where he talked about Parliament and then the related matters, bringing in the issue of charge and all that. And then a statement he made, which I just quickly picked, was when he stated that the Speaker has ruled the matter is over. I put it together and I'm wondering how to really, you know, get to see where there was a difficulty in this whole issue of the processes could not give Ayariga the opportunity to put his case properly. And the reasons are that he could not really substantiate on or come out with evidence on the matter he put out there. I bring up this matter to serve as the premise of my submission because we are talking of a personality here who I believe knows better than any other person when it comes to these things, because he's a lawyer of good standing, and having come up with that, you know, allegation at the time when he did, I believe he should have thought through it, knowing that where this whole thing was going, especially when you had a situation where he and the minority chief whip were on radio, and it went to a point where the minority chief whip indicated that both of them are Muslims, and by their faith they could swear by, the Quran. It tells me a lot. It tells me a lot. And the question you put in there, to me, is why I say it tells me a lot. Because you see, Honorable Dongo made a statement that Parliament is the only institution out of the three arms that can put checks and balances on the other parts of our governance process, which I agree. There's no doubt about that. But when you have a situation like we have experienced with regards to this, bribery allegation, and when you were making your statements, you did indicate that this is not the first time, which we all know. And again, back to Honorable Dongo, where he talked about the fact that if we have situations like this having to come, from within Parliament, it creates a big problem for the body of that arm of government. All these things, I agree. The difficulty here is, why would people who should know better come up with things like this when they know at the end of it they can't prove beyond reasonable doubt that the issues they put out there really carries some, weight? Because when you take, well, I don't know whether if that's going to be the first time, but when you take when Honorable P.C. Ofori made some allegations some time ago, he was asked to, provide evidence, even though there wasn't a committee like this, on the floor of Parliament. And it became an issue, even amongst his own side in Parliament. We've come again with another issue where it's turned out that, like Doc said, the verdict we are hearing is that he went, he was found to have gone...
to be in contempt of Parliament.
Contempt of Parliament. And yet the issue which has gone out there to dent the image of people has not been addressed. Looking at the way this whole thing has come up. So I am wondering, with regards to the question you've put before me, whether the Ghanaian people would want to continue to put confidence in our Parliament. And I think that it behoves of members of Parliament to realize that if they want to continue this way, they are denigrating the image of that, august institution. Because like Honorable Dongo said, we cannot run away from the fact that we need all these arms of government to get ourselves moving, especially with regards to Parliament, where they would be able to continue to put the checks and balances in our governance process. If we have situations like this coming up, I don't think it's going to augur well with us. We've seen situations in other countries where their parliaments, have come to a point where they don't even seem to think that they have any basis to exist. If you've, followed the situation to do the Ukrainian parliament, it is bedeviled with corrupt issues. To the extent that you find members of parliament picked from parliament and dumped in what's called trash bins. So I think that you as members of parliament need to do a lot. You need to do a pegging of your activities. If these things are not done, it will continue to afford those of us who would have the opportunity to
let me ask, what form should that purging take?
You see, you ask these questions and then it becomes a challenge for us. You remember when Edgar spoke, he talked about statements that were made when this whole thing came up. That they are saying that, they've said that they used to take?
That this time we're not going to take.
Oh, they're not going to take. When you make such a statement, it gives credence to the fact that something untoward is going on with regards to probably the appointments committee. Some people have gone on beyond just the appointments committee to say that other committees. And you remember last week when we were here, lawyer, our lawyer who was here indicated.
Yes, Opon.
He even used the mines and energy, the mines and energy subcommittee to talk about some agreements that they have gone on, to pass, and then he feels that it is just not right. And these are the issues that comes in, that, certain activities go on to bend the rules. If it is about Parliament pegging itself, it is not for us to be the ones to prescribe
because they're masters of their own process.
The mode with which they have to do this. I think that, like he's indicated, and we all know it, Parliament is an institution that has all it takes to put things right. And I believe that amongst themselves, the leadership, members, should ensure that they don't get themselves, you know, in things that would continue to make it look as if they're losing what they are expected to be holding, which is, you know, a strong, you know, part of our democratic process. It is worrying. It is worrying, and I don't think that if it continues this way, it will be moving on well for us as a country.
Very well. Edgar, you had wanted to make a point. Touch
Yes,
on that, but also speak to this issue for me. You know, the Speaker, when he ruled, he made reference to some 4 or 5 other persons who had also come in. And indeed, we do know that Honorable Mahama Yaga was not the only person here.
Yeah.
He made the statement initially, but then had support from several others.
Well,
about 9 or so, but eventually came down to 2, Honorable Suhini and Honorable Ablakwa. My question is, if Mr. Ayariga has been found to have been in contempt of court, what happens to those who also said, yes, it's true, it happened?
Well, let me first of all deal with the main issue before we come down to this one. You know, I disagree with my brother, you know, Isaac here, when he says that Parliament is the institution that brings about checks and balances. Certainly not. That power is in the hands of the judiciary, right?
But Parliament is there to check.
If Parliament
messes, that would.
If Parliament, that is, if they have to check executive, fine. But then they cannot check the judiciary. I'm saying that the ordinary citizen, if the ordinary citizen has a problem with Parliament, he can go to the judiciary. If he has a problem with the executive, he goes to the judiciary. If he has a problem with the judiciary itself, he goes to the judiciary. That is why they have all those steps down there. Now, the statements that are being made by that Parliament is a master of its own rules. Yes, Parliament is a master of its own rules. But they are under Article 295, Clause 8.
Sure.
So they cannot presume that whatever they do is sacrosanct and cannot be questioned. They are under Article 295, Clause 8 of the Constitution, and it must be stated clearly. Now, one of the point of emphasis I keep drumming here is this. The clause or the standing orders that the Speaker mentioned in setting up the Jogate Committee, right? That under Order 191 gives Parliament a discretionary power. You see, it gives Parliament a discretionary power to set it up or not. So Parliament could have decided even not to set up the committee. They are not mandated. So you can't say that Parliament has the right, and no, it is a discretionary power that is given to Parliament. That is why I'm saying that in setting
Parliament could have also, the Speaker could have directed this matter to the Privileges Committee straight up.
And listen, the order he quoted, he said Parliament may. So may could not a matter of discretion.
Yeah.
So he could have said he wouldn't even do it. You understand? And that's the point I'm making. And in a matter like this, that is why I keep saying that matters that Parliament, that will fall under that particular order, are the cases you are seeing now. Kentampo waterfalls, public interest, we want to go into it, fine. Galamsey issue, public interest, we want to go into it, fine. ECJ people are complaining about Mida and what have you, want to go into it, fine. But matters bordering on criminality, forget it. It does not fall under that order. If you want to do your own internal investigations into it, do it. But this is a criminal matter, and the CID should have taken over. Now, in relation to the point that you're making, as to regards the other 5 or 2 or whatever, what Isaac says comes into being. Because you see, when you have not given people the opportunity to make their cases heard, as it says, some were called as witnesses and what have you. Now,
but people were also invited to bring memoranda.
Yes, but you see, in a situation where, as you rightly said, you are talking about the truth. You see it that this is it. But my inability to substantiate or provide, because the law is based on what? Facts, evidence and then the law. So here's the situation. The facts or the evidence that must be brought to substantiate the claim, right, is not there. So automatically you cannot, I mean, as it were, say that they are all guilty. But by virtue of the fact that this is the way the law must go, yes, you say they are guilty. And therefore, apologies and what have you. But that is where we come and say that now what you are saying is that Ayariga lied. Because that is a picture that has been put there clearly now. Right? It means Ayariga lied. And for him to have lied to dent the image of Parliament, it is the state of Ghana that suffers from that, problem. And so to that extent, it is not something that will just go away. And you see, when, not forgetting the fact that a year or two ago, somewhere there, the judiciary had this problem. So then the next thing that happens was that, how were the members of the public looking at the judiciary? There were certain funny jokes that were being bandied around. You go to sports, you want to, they say, what, you want to buy kebab, somebody say, Mommy, 2 judge, Mommy, this. That is the extent to which we have reduced our judiciary to. Because they said 1 judge will take 1 goat, 1 will take 2 goats. So you are going to buy kebab, you say, give me 1 judge, give me this. So that is the extent which we reduce our judiciary to. Now the next thing is that Parliament also comes into being, and then they say parliamentarians are taking bribes for what reason? Just to approve nominees. I mean, my God, can we sink that low as a country? So these are not issues that, we see, when people are on the other side saying that they are not satisfied with the investigation, it is all as a result of the fact that they think that that image of Parliament, we cannot just sweep it under the carpet like that. We must get to the bottom of the matter, really, and then know where to place our, Parliament.
Very well.
That basically is the issue.
Very well. So clearly there are still lingering questions.
Certainly there will
Honourable
be.
Adongo, we need to move on to
Yes,
the next topic.
but,
But you've been a member of
he-
Parliament.
there
Have you
are
make
few
your last
issues
say
that
on this?
If
Yes.
I have an opportunity.
Sure,
You see,
briefly.
The fact is, I'm a member of Parliament. If somebody makes sweeping allegations about Parliament taking bribes and boxes all of us into that, and you are in a society where somebody says PC appear for said this, somebody said this, and as a result of that, Parliament takes bribes, you are not being fair to me.
Naturally.
When you can't provide evidence to substantiate that, you are not being fair to me. Do I now become a bribe taker because I have decided to serve this country in Parliament? When you don't have evidence that I've taken bribe. So we have to understand that the fact that the public has a perception about certain events in Parliament puts a much bigger burden on Parliament to ensure that we live above reproach. We demonstrate clearly that we are very ethical in our work. But it doesn't mean that when somebody is making that allegation and creating the perception without proof, then it is true. Are you getting the point?
I get it.
The things that give people that kind of perception, you have to find a way.
Exactly, and that's where I'm coming to.
So
how do we deal with that perception?
That is a very difficult
because
challenge.
it seems very much ingrained.
It's a difficult challenge.
In the
It's a difficult challenge because somebody says a bill came to Parliament or an agreement came to Parliament. In his view, that agreement is not right, and therefore, once Parliament approves it, Parliament must be complicit in some way. That cannot be a basis.
But it's not, yes.
Are you getting it? Cannot be a basis.
It's not a basis.
Yes,
I mean,
and I'm saying that on this issue of the bribery allegation, I am saying that Honorable Mahama Ayariga did not have the right to alter the approach to establishing the truth. If he had, he would have said, I want to cross-examine. And I'm saying that cross-examination is allowed as a major tool for evidence gathering. Why? Even chemical interrogation is being used in other places. So it is possible without paper evidence to also cross-examine. And people will sit there and watch your demeanor and they say, no, this man is not speaking the truth. Again, it will still come down to the court of public opinion as to you watching the program. What conclusions are you coming to?
So then the question really is, did we go or did we come with the report?
And so at the end of the day, the committee defined its own way of establishing the facts. And that is the report we have. On the strength of that report, these are the conclusions. And my big brother is talking about the issue about Mercy. The report itself recognizes that Ayariga is not known to be engaged in reckless behavior. And therefore, having done something wrong for the first time, they themselves recommended that much lesser, harsher punishment should be given to Mama Ayariga. And then defer to the Speaker for his guidance and his ruling. And that is exactly what the Speaker has done. So I think that yes, the doubt will linger on, but the conduct of Parliament and parliamentarians going forward will help clear
exactly
some of these
that image or that perception. Very well. I mean, we need to move on. There's so many dimensions to this matter we can look at, but unfortunately we can't. We have other topics to look at. We move on to look at another very interesting development, which is the vigilante groups. We're looking at specifically the Delta Force and what they did in Kumasi this week, where they attacked a court of competent jurisdiction for that matter, and it just beats my understanding, my imagination here. Now, we do know that each time, suspects are taken to court, there's a certain level of police presence to deal with any eventuality, such as what we saw on was it Thursday? Yes, in Kumasi. And you would reckon that the police would know this and so would, typically put in place certain measures that would deal with all of these, especially where you're dealing with 13 suspects belonging to an organized group, a group that was in court for raiding the Regional Security Council premises or the coordinator's office. And so my question here is, do you think that the police failed us on this? I know we'll go into the nitty-gritties of the issues in terms of the Delta Force itself and all, but I want us to begin the whole discussion from the angle of law enforcement and the preparedness of the law enforcement agencies. Doc, let me start with you. Do you think the police failed us looking at this particular issue?
I think that is good. I don't know, by divine providence, Edgar and I are here today. And we have to talk about
a message to the police.
Yeah.
No, we once dealt with this issue before.
Okay. And I took a certain position. Edgar, today I do my heart for you.
Now you understand me.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that, for me, for want of, I just don't know how to describe this. You have to take, it's as if we don't learn. If for nothing at all, we have an immediate past, and we all rubbished what happened. The Muntie thing that went to court. Anytime is it corporates, you call them suspects, went there, the police. In fact, I think it was based on that I said, hey, the police were doing their work. Then a thing like this has happened, and you never learned any lessons. You just, I don't know how many police details were there, and then you are telling us that they went through a restricted area. So you didn't anticipate that a thing like that will happen. And I think that the earlier their PRO stop talking, the better it will be for the police. I'm talking of the PRO, the Ashanti Regional. Yes, the earlier you stop talking, I think the better it will be. Moving on, I think that I want to, sorry, with your permission, I want to raise something on vigilante. Everybody is talking of vigilante. And for me, based on this particular definition of vigilante, I've just Googled, it's saying that a vigilante is a member of a self-appointed group of citizens who undertake law enforcement in their community without legal authority. Typically, because the legal agencies are thought to be inadequate. Vigilante, a law enforcement.
Usurping law enforcement authority.
They are usurping.
Yes, enforcement.
They are.
No.
And that will be with a tacit agreement or connivance or whatever with the law enforcement agencies. For instance, if you have vigilantes policing or going about their duties lawfully within the particular community. For instance, having this watchdogs.
Yes.
For me, these are vigilantes. Or, fine. I mean, a vigilante standing by at an electoral area and watching others not to do the wrong things, I will accept it. But not to the extent of having gone beyond this, beyond elections, and you are not to police any other person, but you go beyond on rampage. It moves beyond vigilante, it moves into a different realm altogether. And I try again to look at what terrorism is. You know, I tried again to look at what terrorism, sorry, with your permission, I will want to look at, oh, sorry.
Perhaps whilst you look for that,
Yeah.
I could move on to Edgar.
Yeah,
when you
move
get
on.
it, we could, yes.
Yeah,
Edgar, let me
move
hear
on.
from
Move
you
on.
on this, yes.
Well, this matter has come up again.